Welcome to the 18th season of the NitWits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Our NitWits panel includes Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror, Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com, Jacob Cowker of WTAJ Sports, and a special guest nitwit each week. The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Reed and Salini, Doctors Reed and Salini provide orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona, Just Ask Rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By Your Rehab Choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Welcome to the Open Date Week edition of the NitWits. Penn State football does not have a game, so we've got a very special guest with us. Penn State Director of Athletics, Sandy Barbour, joining the regular NitWits. Sandy, great to have you here this week.
Glad to be here. We're making the Open Week my tradition, right?
Yeah, we appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Yeah, be able to book that early. And a lot of questions, a lot of development news, so we figured maybe we get right to it. You guys have conducted a series of town hall meetings and getting feedback from the community, the students, your staff, concerning potential renovations and including even maybe a new stadium. Where does all that stand?
Well, the town halls were designed to really, for two reasons, but all around our strategic plan. Was an opportunity for us to kind of test it, talk about the framework, and then get response to that, as well as obviously we have a very, very passionate community, whether it be our students, whether it be our alumni, or we did a open community one, we did a faculty staff one, and to just see what's on people's minds. And obviously we had announced the facilities master plan probably a month prior to starting the town halls, and so that was on people's minds as well. So we did a little bit in the presentation about the master plan, and then a lot of the questions and a lot of the concerns and comments were around the master plan, with probably most of those being around Beaver Stadium.
What was maybe the biggest point of feedback, or the one that struck you the most, or even the best part of feedback that you've heard from fans or other folks through this process?
I think probably the best comment we got was a gentleman who said, well, all of this is great, but it seems like a rehash of what we've been doing here the last 25 years. And I know he thought I was going to be upset with that comment. I actually said, that's awesome, because that's exactly what I want to make sure we do. That our strategic plan is about how we make sure that we continue to have the kind of success we've had, that we continue to do it with the values we've done, but in a changing environment. So what are the things we have to do to make sure we either maintain that success or even further it, but with the same principles? So I actually was very flattered by his comment.
With respect to the stadium, what sort of feedback did you get? What are people looking for in that experience? Because we know, we've talked about it last year, how much of a challenge it is to get people in the seats when they could sit at home and watch on a big screen. So what are the things that they're looking for?
Well, it's all over the board, as you might imagine. And as part of the process, we certainly are going to test that through surveys and some other more data-driven instruments. But the town halls, again, were about listening. And us hearing what's important to people, what's valuable to them, what is it about their Penn State experience, what is it about their game day experience that they either have and want to make sure that we maintain, or that they want to see down the road. And it's everything. I think there is consensus around restrooms and concessions, maybe those two, and ingress and egress with more elevators or better elevators or escalators and those kinds of things. And I think as you start to get into seating options, whether it be backs on benches or whether it be single seats or whether it be premium seating kinds of things, when you get into those kinds of items, there's a lot more divergence.
How married are you guys to the 107,000 seats that you have built up to over a long period of expansion? Where do you see that number? Where do you see your capacity?
Well, this is one of the reasons why we're doing the study. I know this is a moment of uncomfortableness because we don't have a lot of answers, but it's why we're doing the study. And I think, although 107,000 has been a number very much connected to us, and I'd certainly like to see us stay at a very large capacity because we've got a large community to accommodate. But there's also, as you look at the things that I think are going to be essential to be done in the renovation, I don't know whether we can do those and maintain 107. It's not going to be a big step down from that, but it may not stay at 107.
What are the biggest challenges with a stadium that old and that's been kind of retrofitted 50 different times? A lot of people, that's part of what they love, that it started on the other side of the university and brought it across campus. But by the same token, I mean, we've heard things about the water being an issue, that sort of thing. What are the biggest challenges there?
Well, I think there's exactly as you said it. I don't think it's as much old, although that certainly presents its own set of challenges. But it's the manner in which we have it's the steps and the stages to which it's been added onto that will probably architecturally, structurally, will present the biggest challenge. But again, that's why we're doing the study.
Right.
Where are we? What are our needs? And a lot of that obviously is from our fans. What do you want? What's your game day experience? What do you want it to look like? What are our needs? How do we address those? How do you do that in a renovation? How do you do that given an existing structure? And how much will it cost?
How much are you willing to pay, too?
And you set that again. Well, how much can we afford?
I mean,
right?
how much are the fans willing to pay? Because ultimately, that'll be their burden.
Absolutely part of it. Absolutely part of it. And you take that analysis and you put it up against new construction, new facility. How does that address the needs, and how much does that cost?
All right, well, much more with Penn State Athletic Director Sandy Barbour when we continue here on the NitWits. She's watched the entire James Franklin era at Penn State, so maybe we'll shift away from the stadium, maybe more onto the field when we return.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Doctors Reed and Solani, orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need.
I'm Brad Spider Caldwell, and you're watching the NitWits.
Welcome back. Our very special guest nitwit this week is Penn State AD Sandy Barbour. We've been having a very good conversation about the facilities plan and want to continue that a little bit. Go ahead.
Sandy, I'm just curious. So much of Penn State football is tied to tradition, and a lot of people that I talk to say, "Boy, are they really going to build a new stadium?" Is there a number that if the renovations goes up to a certain point that really becomes in play? How difficult will it be to walk away from the current stadium?
I think it would be. I think it would be hugely difficult. I mean, that's why my preference, my stated preference. I think everybody involved in it really believes that we'll find a way to meet our needs, bridge that gap in a renovated Beaver Stadium, but it's my responsibility and it's our responsibility as a department to do that analysis just so we know what we're dealing with.
Do you have any idea what that number would be? I know you're early, but I hear Temple talking about building a $100 million stadium downtown. I could only imagine what a 100,000 seat stadium would be. I mean, and does it blow your mind when you start thinking about these figures?
Oh, it does, and people ask me all the time, what keeps you up at night, right? And that's what the cost of this might be is certainly one of those things. But frankly, the facilities master plan is about all 31 programs, is about over 20 facilities that we either compete or train or study in as student athletes, and so this is a big project. This is a very, very big undertaking that will be completed over time, but it's going to need to be something obviously that we can afford, that we can take on fiscally.
How much do you draw on your experience at Cal, because there were some challenges there in the stadium? How much of a learning experience was that?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge, both in things that I would do differently and that things that we did that I absolutely want to bring with me. One is just about creating spaces for the community to gather. I think that was a real plus and a real success in the Cal project. The other is around being really, really clear from a financing standpoint. There's been a lot of misinformation and a lot of misunderstanding about what we did at Cal, which frankly isn't any different than what most places are doing in terms of renovations, stadium renovations, and a lot of people are renovating their stadiums because of wanting to make sure that our fans have a quality game day that they want to come to. And then the other thing I draw on is we did a facilities master plan at Notre Dame during my time there that they are still largely using, and that was really powerful for me in terms of setting the path, setting the blueprint for where you go with all of these facilities.
Just a couple quick hitters. Would you guys be eligible for state money in something like this?
I am way too new to the state and understanding the appetite. I know I live in a state that doesn't have a budget in November, but I mean that's something that we certainly will ask all the right questions, but I have no idea whether that's a possibility.
Is there a timetable when you would try to reach a decision on what direction maybe you decide to go?
Well, our master plan, we believe, will be not ready to put a bow on it, but will be down the home stretch come June, because we want to be prepared for the university's next campaign, fundraising campaign, capital campaign, of which will be will certainly be a part. So I think we'll be kind of we'll be moving towards some decisions sometime next summer.
And kind of segueing to the James Franklin things that we wanted to talk about, he mentioned that he had an opportunity to meet with you guys, I think, earlier this week. Is he focused more on what he wants from the stadium? It almost sounded like when he was talking to us, it's more about practice facilities. He mentioned a possible another indoor facility that other programs could use. How much is he worried about the stadium, and how much is he worried about the kind of stuff that people don't really see as much?
Well, you've hit the nail on the head. Like any coach, and absolutely where he ought to be. His priority and his focus is on those everyday conditions for success for our student athletes, because those 5 days, what we call it Sunday through Friday, lead up to the success that you're going to have on Saturday. But that doesn't mean he's disinterested or not interested at all about the fan experience. Of course he is. He absolutely, because he wants our fans to be motivated to come to Beaver Stadium on Saturdays.
One last thing, what is there any idea of making it a multi-purpose facility, Beaver Stadium, as opposed to just the 8 football games a year, where you could have a concert, where you can do some other things that would generate revenue?
Yeah, I don't think we've been shy. I've certainly not been shy in my 14, 15 months here about talking about Beaver Stadium being an incredible asset, and we need to use it more than seven days a year. There's a tipping point there. I mean, it's a football stadium. That needs to be its primary purpose. That needs to be what we cater to. But I do think that there's an opportunity for us to do some relatively small number of other events annually there that bring value to our community and certainly maybe help us pay for stadium upgrades.
Speaking of James, last year you got here just in time for the kickoff in Ireland.
Literally.
Yeah, right. Now you've had a sample size of 23 games in a year, more than a year and a half. How do you gauge the football program's progress?
Well, I think that it's exactly that. We're making progress. I think people understand at a surface level the impact of the sanctions that James walked into. We don't really think about anymore the impact on these young people, whether some of them, I think we've got a few of them that went through 2 coaching changes, and a lot of them have been through 1. What I love about this year's team is they found a way to win. It hasn't been pretty. We've all recognized that, but I love the grit in these young men, and that comes from James and his staff. It comes from who they're recruiting, who they're nurturing on a daily basis. But we all know we can all agree on the expectations. Penn State football is going to compete for a national championship, and I believe that's down the road. It's in our future. I see it in the day-to-day management of the program from James. I certainly see it in what we're doing from a recruiting standpoint. Top 20, top 15 last year. Right now we're tracking top 5, top 10. So I just think our future is really, really bright. Totally understand that the fits and starts along the way are frustrating, but I hope folks understand that they're as frustrating for James and for me as they are for them. So we're kind of all in this together.
With respect to some of the critical feedback you get from fans or even some of us in the media at times, he seems to have a pretty good grasp, and I assume you do, that the alternative is people not caring. Yeah. So once they stop complaining, it would almost seem as if that would be the greater issue. So long as they still care, it seems big, doesn't it? That
is what I love about this community. It's what I loved about my time here, is that our fans are so passionate. It's what you love about sports fans, is because you can disagree. You can disagree on tactic, you can disagree on strategy, you can disagree on approach, but absolutely. I mean, I want our fans to care deeply, and I love divergent opinions. That's what makes the world go around. And so, as much as we all like to have a little bit more success, but I mean, we're 7-3, and we'd all like to have a little bit more success. Again, I think we're in it together. I believe all of the signs point to a really, really bright future just around the corner.
All right, well, we will continue this conversation here on the NitWits.
The NitWits are brought to you by Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By your rehab choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life.
Now back to the NitWits. A roundtable discussion of Penn State football.
Of course, we do spend most of our time here on the NitWits talking football, but a lot going on outside of football, and Sandy Barbour, the athletic director, is here. From a big national signing day for men's hoops to more Bryce Jordan-centered duels for wrestling on the horizon to Penn State volleyball ranked #1 again. A lot outside of Beaver Stadium going on and keeping you busy at this time of year.
Wow, you're setting me up here. Yeah, yesterday, signing date, whether it's the November date or the February date or the April date, is always really exciting for us because it's our future. It's that next generation, and for no matter where you look, and starting with men's hoops, back to back, our best ever. Last year top 30, this year top 15, maybe top 10. I love where Pat Chambers is going and where that program is going. The future is really, really bright. And then, to today, you got volleyball sitting at number 1. You got women's soccer, a number 1 seed, Big Ten regular season title, Big Ten tournament title, cross country, women's cross country just nabbed a Big Ten title. Women's hoops opening up. Men's hoops opening up. Both hockey's in full swing. Swimming on campus tomorrow. I mean, you name it. It's the beauty of 31 programs.
From the volleyball standpoint, I know Neil was curious. How does Russ Rose? He has earned all those national titles. Has he earned the right to kind of set his own timeline as well? I mean, he's been here, it seems like, forever. How long does that continue? Is that up to him, pretty much?
That's absolutely up to Russ. I mean, Russ is the best in the business. I think he's the best ever, and I want him to be at Penn State as long as he possibly can. Or as long as he possibly wants to. I also left out tomorrow night the wrestling opener, and I know Cale isn't going to talk about his recruiting class until next spring when he's got the whole class in. But they're obviously bringing in a quality crew as well.
How about the ability for those wrestling fans throughout Pennsylvania to fill up the Bryce Jordan Center? Now you're expanding the number of duels. Is there ever a day that you would foresee shifting everything over there, or is that not quite in the cards?
I mean, Rec Hall is too special a place for Penn State wrestling. I don't see it. I think we can play with the number, whether it's 1 or it's 2, or and that's a really cool thing in the BJC for a wrestling match as kind of a 1-off or maybe a 2-off. But Penn State wrestling's home is Rec Hall.
All right, quick Penn State Michigan predictions coming up next.
The NitWits are brought to you by EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday.
Time for Penn State versus Michigan picks. Full disclosure, our recording schedule has this before any of the weekend's games, so if our picks are way off, we'll blame it on that, I guess. Neil, you want to go first?
You want me to go first? I'll give Mike's pick in honor of the chair. Mike's pick at Penn State 24-21.
I'm doing this under protest because Neil's supposed to go first, but he's mad at me for last week. Listen, I agree with Sandy. This team has really, everything it's up against has done a great job this year, but I'm going to have to see it do something against a top 25 opponent before I could pick it. So I'm going to go Michigan 21, Penn State 16.
All right. I will also pick Michigan, even though I think that the whiteout crowd plays a bit of a factor in this one, but I'm going to go Michigan 20, Penn State 16.
Wow, you guys opened the door for me. I was thinking about picking Michigan, but I'm going to go the other side. I'm going to say Senior Day, Penn State 20, Michigan 17.
All right, that'll do it on this week of the NitWits. We'll see you next time.
The NitWits are brought to you by Irwin Financial Raymond James, an independent firm and firm foundation for your financial future. Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Reed and Salaney, Doctors Reed and Salaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona. Just ask rental. Buy what you want, rent what you need. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your cleaning needs. By Your Rehab Choice, Health South Altoona. Ask for us by name. By Courtesy Motors of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. You can also see the Nitwits on AltoonaMirror.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week.